And greetings. Happy Monday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. I'm Steve Deace. I'm here in the man cave. Don't worry, no wasps. I've just got a flight I got to get to right after the show today. So that just made it easier. My house is closer to the airport than the studio is, so made it easier for me to do the show from home today. Todd Erzen, Aaron McIntyre back there in studio, and that studio is going away here. This is our last week in that building. We've been there for for about a decade now, and we got a new facility, largely look like the same studio, but a new facility. That means we need you guys to bear with us this week. All right, so I'll be at home today. I'll be on the road from Nashville tomorrow, and then I'll be back here, airlines willing, which is... All right, so back here in our studio for the final time in that location on Wednesday with Todd and Aaron. And then you're going to get evergreen editions Thursday and Friday because the breakdown and move of the studio begins right after the show ends on Wednesday. All right, so you won't get live shows Thursday and Friday, but you will get new shows. Thursday, you're going to get a full 2 hours of Theology Thursday, Ask Me Anything. We're taking the June and July Ask Me Anything segments and combining them into one full show. So that's coming up for you on Thursday. And then on Friday, I just saw she had an excellent prognosis just a few minutes ago. Our good friend Megan Basham over at Daily Wire, who wrote Shepherds for Sale, I think the most consequential non-fiction book of the last few years. And so her latest cancer scans were very, very good. She's going to join us for an evergreen episode we recorded with her about the aftermath of her book and where infiltration in the church currently stands. And that's going to be with us on Friday. So you don't want to miss that. All right. Coming up on today's show, Bob Vander Plaats is going to join us at the bottom of the hour, give us his rundown of what happened over the weekend at the Family Leadership Summit. Does J.D. Vance have maybe a new contestant? I mean, a lot of people are kind of anticipating Ron DeSantis will run again against Vance in 2028. But I'm hearing, and I believe Todd Erzen, one of the people I heard this from, was from you, that the Arkansas governor, who, of course, her daddy won here in Iowa, so Iowans are no stranger to the last name Huckabee, but I'm hearing rave reviews that she was a shining star in front of about 1,000 activists here in Iowa on Friday. I know you won't pull any punches, Todd, so can you verify that for us?
I heard two incredible speeches from her, the one at the main event and then the one at the dinner later on that night. And like I know I said on the show months and months ago, I mean, she may have just locked up the VP status at the very least.
Wow. And maybe that dinner, in some respects, might be as important with a much smaller crowd because of who's in that crowd, right? So you have hundreds of pastors that make up that 1,000 activists at the Leadership Summit every year here in Iowa. So that's a big deal. But then the dinner is where a lot of the people that write checks for these kinds of events and for campaigns are at that kind of a dinner. So it's equally important to shine there as it is, in front of the larger crowd as well. All right. So Bob's going to join us to give us a report on that. And the next hour, it's going to be your turn to ask me anything. We're going to do something different than we've done before. We're going to do a segment of Ask Me Anything of questions for Todd and Aaron, which means you guys kind of cheat a little bit and you're going to get to actually see the questions before they come. I just want to know, because I never do, but I like it that way. I just want to know, I put out the APB that you guys especially had to get some snotty questions this week. Did the audience deliver? Are you guys going to be forced to answer some snotty questions next hour?
Not really. They're just more...
I'm very disappointed to see
They're more
that.
interested in the status quo.
Hey, I have a snotty question for both of you. I didn't have time to ask. Do you know who would have left a very high dollar, top of the line meat thermometer on my seat this weekend?
Oh, you know what I forgot to tell you guys? So there's a phishing scam going on with Amazon where people are sending you things you did not order, and then Amazon wants you to report them. And that came on my doorstep a few days ago. So after we reported it to Amazon, they said, hey, don't give anybody your information or anything, but you just go ahead and keep it. Well, I know you're big into that with the smoking and everything, so I put it there on your chair as a gift for you.
Well, thank you. This is more than double what I would pay for that, and I needed one. My Bluetooth meat thermometer blew out a few weeks ago, so thank you for that. Thank you, Amazon.
Todd, we're getting old. Did you know Bluetooth meat? I didn't know these were even a thing until this showed up on my doorstep as part of a phishing scam.
I barely know what Bluetooth is.
There it is. You see, I should have seen. So we're making everybody go hands-free in Iowa right now, and so I always, when I call people on my phone, I just hit the button on the phone as I'm driving and just say out loud, hey, call so-and-so. Well, now we're going hands-free. I don't want to get a cheap ticket for that, right? So I've not used the Bluetooth in my truck yet, even though I've had it for a few years. And so I just called Todd. You guys should have heard the tone of Todd's voice. He was like, what is this? What is this newfangled contraption? I'm like, just testing my Bluetooth, man. I'm just testing my Bluetooth. All right. Let's get started with Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away brought to you by What is the Streisand Effect Anyway? President Trump posted on Truth Social this weekend regarding Jeffrey Epstein, quote, what's going on with my boys and in some cases gals? They're all going after Attorney General Pam Bondi, who is doing a fantastic job. We're on one team, MAGA, and I don't like what's happening. We have a perfect administration, the talk of the world, and selfish people are trying to hurt it, all over a guy who never dies, Jeffrey Epstein. For years, it's Epstein over and over again. Why are we giving publicity to files written by Obama, crooked Hillary, Comey, Brennan, and the losers and criminals of the Biden administration who conned the world with the Russia hoax, 51 intelligence agents, the laptop from hell, and more? They created the Epstein files, just like they created the fake Hillary Clinton Christopher Steele dossier that they used on me, and now my so-called friends are playing right into their hands. Why didn't these radical left lunatics release the Epstein files if there was anything there that would have hurt the MAGA movement? Why didn't they use it? He went on to say, quote, let Pam Bondi do her job. She's great. The 2020 election was rigged and stolen, and they tried to do the same thing in 2024. That's what she's looking into as AG and much more. 1 year ago, our country was dead. Now it's the hottest country anywhere in the world. Let's keep it that way and not waste time and energy on Jeffrey Epstein, somebody that nobody cares about. Thank you for your attention in this matter. Moving on, President Trump announced this morning he's sending oodles of new weapons to Ukraine, some of them capable of striking deep inside Russia.
I haven't agreed on the number yet, but they're going to have some because they do need protection. But the European Union is paying for it. We're not paying anything for it, but we will send it. It'll be business for us, and we will send them Patriots, which they desperately need, because Putin really surprised a lot of people. He talks nice, and then he bombs everybody in the evening. So there's a little bit of a problem there.
A year ago today.
If you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
President Trump sat down for an interview with his daughter-in-law, Lara Trump, and says regarding the aftermath of the Butler, Pennsylvania near tragedy.
So they briefed me numerous times, the FBI, the Secret Service, sort of everybody. DOJ, Pamela's doing I think she's doing a fantastic job. But they briefed me, and I'm satisfied with it. They should have had somebody in the building. That was a mistake. They should have had communications with the local police. They weren't tied in. And they should have been tied in. So there were mistakes made. And that shouldn't have happened. And that building was a prime building in terms of what they were trying to do. So, but I was satisfied in terms of the bigger plot, the larger plot.
Some good DOJ news. The Justice Department has dropped all charges against Utah Dr. Kirk Moore. He's the one who forged COVID-19 vaccination cards and destroyed COVID shots. That's good news. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, along with other branches of DHS, conducted a criminal search warrant of a marijuana farm in Southern California late last week and were met with resistance from local pro-illegal immigration hoodlums, including one individual who appeared to open fire on ICE officials. Federal officials say 8 unaccompanied illegal alien children were recovered at the cannabis farm. Child labor investigations have been initiated. In all, over 300 individuals were arrested in the operation. Tucker Carlson addressed TPUSA this weekend.
If you deny people what they actually want long enough and instead substitute things that you claim they should want, like bombing Iran, I'm not for Iran, where you spend all day telling me that it's so important that, boys not playing girls' soccer teams, whatever. I agree. I hate the tranny stuff passionately. I think you should keep the boys off girls' soccer teams. But I don't know. It kind of feels like you're feeding me appetizers. At some point, I want to look around and see a better country. I want to see a country I recognize. I don't want to see people sleeping on the sidewalk. I don't see people ODing on drugs. I want to know where those drugs coming from. Why can't you stop it? You've got the U.S. military. Don't you have SEAL Team 6? Like, what are they doing today? Don't you have Delta Force? You could give me another segment about how impressive the U.S. military is? I believe you. Why aren't they employed to make my country better? Why are my cities disgusting? I don't even want to go there. It smells like weed and halal food. And you're lecturing me about how it's a great moral victory that I kicked the boys off the girls' soccer team? Good, I'm so glad. But let's do the real stuff, like making New York livable and creating an economy where my kids can have kids. How about this? How about we just make the measure really super simple? Can my children have without the benefit of like the great luck I have had, can they have a roughly approximate life that I had? Or how about just a middle-class life? Can they like get married young, as I did, and like have 4 kids and, take a couple jobs, work hard and all that stuff? But in the end, it's like, fine. Can they do that? Or is that like so remote a possibility that you need to tell me that Iran is the real threat? Take my mind off the fact that you stole all the money and screwed up my country beyond recognition.
Pop culture news, Christian-coded Chip and Joanna Gaines are officially affirming of sodomy. It's been revealed in the past few days, not only did they shoot an episode featuring a homosexual couple, they also have close professional and personal ties with a homosexual who blew up his family to chase his dreams as a fudge packer. James Gunn's Superman opened up to a tune of $122 million domestically at the box office. And that's what happened while we were away.
Aaron's Montage brought to you by our friends over at Patriot Mobile. Listen, there's a lot of choices of where you can go for your mobile phone service, but only one choice where you can go with somebody that gives you all the great accoutrements of the communist corporations who hate you without having to give them your money any longer. And has been on the cutting edge to boot of the parallel economy, really from its nascent stages. That's our friends over at Patriot Mobile, and I've just seen with my own eyes. When I go speak around the country, particularly at conferences and event kind of events, you'll see they're often sponsored by Patriot Mobile. So when we tell you they take the profits you give them and reinvest them prophetically back into your values, you can go see it firsthand just as I have. Switching is easier than ever before. Keep your phone, upgrade your phone, keep your number, switch your number. They've got a contract buyout possibility option for you if you're locked in on devices and you want to get out of that communist corporation. Freudian slip right away. Make the switch today when you use the promo code Steve at patriotmobile.com/Steve. That's patriotmobile.com/Steve. Use the code Steve for a free month of service at patriotmobile.com/Steve. Code Steve for a free month of service to get you started at patriotmobile.com/Steve. All right, where to begin today? Because there's a few major things in there that I think need to be discussed. Let's do this because the Tucker clip is fresh in everybody's minds. I'm fascinated by that because our good buddy Daniel Horowitz says word for word, including hey, it's great that we're taking guys out of women's sports, but where are the big ticket things that would actually save our cities and country? I mean, word for word. Daniel Horowitz says that stuff to me privately, like every single day for months. Even though right now he's pretty ticked off at Tucker over the Israel stuff. So take away the Israel stuff, and everything else that Tucker said right there is in either my DMs, a text message, or an email, or a phone call from Daniel Horowitz pretty much every day for the last few months. Is he right, gentlemen? What do you think? Is he right? Is he right to a degree, or is he dead wrong?
I think he is absolutely right to link economics and the trans stuff. However, I would also say, politely, respectfully, that you cannot do the big ticket stuff if you don't get the fundamental building blocks of civilization right, like what is a man and what is a woman. However, linking the broad macro points about economics and economic trend lines and the middle class to the phenomenon of trans and whatever malady you want to talk about, he's absolutely right to do that. Todd and I were talking, I think it was earlier this year, but we were reminiscing about various trips we've taken, or he's taken to the Capitol, the one that I did to just document the trans mob. And we noted how many of them seem to come from, or at least appear to be, you don't want to always judge a book by its cover, although it's hard not to do that sometimes. How much of that mob came from lower socioeconomic status? Similar to how drugs kind of were circulating in elite circles in larger population centers before they matriculated down into places like the area where J.D. Vance grew up in. This phenomenon will do the same thing. It is ultimately an expression. It is ultimately an expression of giving up. It will be anyway. What started in, wealthier kind of enclaves with the trans phenomenon will end up, and I think it already has permeated the lower socioeconomic status places, because it will become, if it's not that already, just an indication of giving up, because I don't have any opportunities in this land. So I think he's absolutely right to link the macroeconomic picture with the trans stuff. However, I would also say that we can't also address the larger. We can't fix our cities. We can't fix the drug problem. We can't do all of that if we can't do 1 + 1 = 2.
Todd?
Well, it's, what I think about Tucker. He's just decided he's going to go down all these weird rabbit holes, and sometimes we agree, sometimes we don't. Obviously, he's in danger. I don't think he quite believes it himself, but other people might perceive this as a false choice that they applaud, and that's the danger here. Listen, it's not just about sports. It's about men and women's bathrooms. It's about drag queen story hour. Or it's about chopping up children in hospitals. All this has happened. You can't have any society worth living in, let alone what God ordains and protects, if you don't understand male and female. He created them, and there's no way to get that clean, orderly city anywhere. This is why this is a false choice. And with a bunch of trannies walking around. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. So it's not an either or. It's a both and.
Yeah. I think Todd said in about 30 seconds what I tried to articulate in 3 minutes, is that, yes, this is a fundamental building block. This is a football gentleman conversation, but I do think there's an element that's more complicated, that these two phenomenons are linked. That's all I'm trying to say.
I'm glad we started with this one, because I was listening to guys' responses, which were excellent. Whether you agree or disagree with those guys, I thought they were well reasoned. It's actually a good segue to the other point I wanted to mention. Did you see where Tucker made these comments? It's at TPUSA. Also at that exact same event, there was a debate between libertarian comic and frequent Israel critic Dave Smith and our buddy Josh Hammer. And I've only gotten through the first 15 minutes of it, and then I got distracted with the rest of what I had to do to get ready to leave this morning, and haven't listened to the whole thing yet. But in the opening 15 minutes, Dave Smith openly says, hey, listen, I voted for Trump, but in my opinion, his actions on Epstein are nothing more than covering up a child sex ring. He said this from the stage. Now, here's the thing. He didn't get booed off the stage for saying that either. And I think I want to make a broad point, because we've gotten into the specifics of Epstein on several different levels already. And this won't go away. Glenn Beck was taking phone calls on his show this morning from people who are disappointed to betrayed, they feel, for Trump not coming through on this thus far. Father Time waits for no man. And without a doubt, Donald Trump is the king of the GOP right now. But the form of our kingships are not the same as previous monarchies, meaning that he will be term limited. And what you've seen with Epstein already is, you have seen, if you're online, you have seen this is a different debate than what went on between Iran and Israel. You're seeing a break. And what you're seeing is the person who's the paid influencer, the cat turds, who are paid to literally say whatever Donald Trump tells them to say. And again, like I told you when I brought this up in another context last week, I would say conservatively, we'd probably agree 75-80% of what cat turd puts out there on behalf of Trump's messaging. We'd probably objectively agree with it. And then the other part, we're like, well, you're probably just saying that because he cut you a check to say it. But most of what he put out there, we would agree with objectively, whether Trump paid him to or not. And what you're seeing here, that post that Aaron showed you on Truth Social got heavily ratioed on Truth Social. Heavily ratioed. For those of you that don't know what that means, it's basically the equivalent of a bunch of downvotes on Netflix, which is why Netflix took them away, because they kept producing woke content. They kept getting downvoted, so they took those things away. right? That's, or maybe it was YouTube that did that. I can't remember. But that's essentially what happened to the president on his own platform with his own followers. There are a lot of major anonymous MAGA accounts that are not paid influencers of the Trump administration. And if they're going to serve any interest, it's probably going to be the algorithm. And the algorithm, without question, right now is favoring the continued questioning of what happened with Jeffrey Epstein and why we're not being given what we were promised and where the transparency is. Furthermore, gentlemen, who controls the largest information server algorithm on currently on the planet? Do you guys remember who controls that?
Elon
Musk.
Elon Musk. What's his relationship with Donald Trump right now?
Sketch.
Splendid, swell, sketch. So that adds to this as well. So no, Pam Bondi's not in the clear, and this would not have been the case before. People would have just moved on. But Trump can't run for office again. His name will never be on a ballot again. We're already reaching the point of now, the power he wields is still great, and he's earned it, okay? But it's a little bit like let me give you an analogy. The longest day of the year every year, you guys know what it is? It's the summer solstice. Longest day of the year. Now, from that time forward, the rest of the days of the year, the days get shorter. You don't necessarily feel it until like October, because even though, today's July 14th, it'll be shorter than the summer solstice was. But in most of America, still, the sun's not going down until after 9 o'clock. So the fact that it went down 30 seconds or a minute earlier than it did a week ago, you won't feel that. You won't feel it until we get closer to the winter solstice, when the days become shorter than ever. You see the analogy I'm getting at here? For these kinds of things to be openly said now by some of Trump's most ardent supporters, and in the kinds of settings they're saying them, is indicative of the fact that you're already seeing some of the grip loosened. Now, it is still an iron grip. It is still a more powerful grip than anyone else has. There's no close second. But we've passed the summer solstice now. The days only get shorter from here. He cannot run again. This is a non-negotiable to many people. The very thing we talked about that kind of frustrates us sometimes with MAGA, that they care more about exposure than policy, well, they still care more about exposure, a lot of them do, than policy. That statement's not going to cut it. I mean, he gave that statement right before the TPUSA, and I love TPUSA. I'm a part of their speaker circuit. But he gave that speech or that statement right before their event. Didn't change what anybody said whatsoever. A year ago at this time, if Trump had done that, it would have changed what a lot of people said. Not now. We've passed the summer solstice. Time doesn't wait for any man. Not to mention when it comes to something that is a red line for many people and something near and dear to their hearts. Throw in the fact that the algorithms that a lot of Anon accounts that Trump are not paying, that have huge engagements and huge accounts, are going to be incentivized by the algorithm that continues to want these things questioned. And then the guy that controls the largest algorithm of all, of any public information server currently existing on this third rock from the sun, has had a major falling out with the president at the exact same time. So this is not going away by a long shot. It is continuing. It is perpetuating. I don't think those comments will suffice many people. And the thing is, the president may never have to face the voters again. So maybe he does not care. But there's a lot of people who would like to be the next president who will. There's a lot of people within his empire who want to continue to serve the base that's really pissed off right now, long after he is gone. So they're going to care quite a bit. And I love what he's done thus far, reliving the events of Butler a year ago. But then look at his remarks on that. Well, I'm confident in what I was told. Well, sir, with all due respect, I know you were the one that was shot, and you should be told first. But we're the boss here. We're the ones that need to be told. We need to be told what you were told. I looked it up. Did you guys know? how many people lost their jobs for the fact the math chess club kid was able to Spider-Man in front of full view of the Secret Service and the entire Butler, Pennsylvania Police Department and get within 150 yards of a kill shot and a kill box of the President of the United States? Do you know how many Secret Service agents lost their jobs, guys? Take a guess.
Tiny.
0. No one lost their job. No one. There were a handful of suspensions. No one was fired as of now. That's just not acceptable. So again, time waits for no man. Lame duck status eventually arrives for us all. Every single one of us is one contract away from not being relevant again. One election away from not being relevant again. One car accident from not being relevant again because time waits for no man and we're all mortal. And I think you're seeing the first chink in the armor here. And he's going to have to give his base something. He's going to have to. And if it's not on this, it's going to have to be on something else, like the New York Times story this morning. That Anthony Fauci's preemptive pardon, which we're not even sure is a thing legally, was auto-penned and signed off by the White House COVID censorship czar. I mean, that would seem to be a very high-value target if you want to do a substitutionary atonement. But I think the reaction to his statement and the lack of regard for it, and the only people who moved on this are people that are getting paid to move whenever Donald Trump says to jump. Their response is how high. Everybody else just kept going, that's not going to work. I think that speaks volumes about where we are, and I think the president needs to hear his base on this. Gentlemen, your thoughts?
And, well, I think that's reinforced all the more, the ratio that you're talking about, by the fact that within the middle of that, after the Bondi and, leave my boys alone, that which is just high school nonsense. But it's actually a reasonable argument. I made it myself earlier, not because I necessarily know if it's true, but when he says, we can't even believe that there's an Epstein list. These people have told so many lies. I don't firmly believe that there is an actual Epstein list, something in a locker somewhere. So the fact, I don't think that's an unreasonable argument to make, and yet people who have long time defended Donald Trump with arguments like that are not having any of it anymore actually speaks more strongly to your overall point that people are just like, yeah, I know reasons, I get it, but I need a scalp. You got to show me a scalp.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. Why wasn't that their messaging from the very beginning? Why instead of saying what they said in that FBI memo, which was, I think, leaked before it was officially announced, why didn't they hedge to the hilt? Why didn't they hedge by saying, hey, just a reminder, for the last how many years out of how many years, Democrats have been in control of this institution. Based on what we have, we don't see a list, but that doesn't mean that, X, Y, and Z figures could have either deleted evidence or what have you. You don't want to, I'm sure there's some legal things you don't want to, disparage individuals unduly or put yourself at risk of defamation. But you could have messaged this
I think it's
completely
because
differently.
I agree, but I think it's because our intelligence community has become so detached from authority over a long period of time that nobody, including the president, really knows what anybody has on this.
You may be right, but see, there's a lot of people that voted for Donald Trump thinking that he could fix that.
I agree.
He's not
Totally
beholden
agree.
to anybody. He's independently wealthy, doesn't care, right? He's not from the traditional two-party system. He's not vested in it.
Absolutely right.
And he fed those expectations. He's
Correct.
never ceased to feed those expectations for a decade.
Correct.
Well, now's the big moment for him to deliver, okay? And not doing it, I mean, that's read my lips level stuff like we were talking about last week. Listen, I think Dr. Kirk Moore can probably thank Jeffrey Epstein because first of all, they should have dropped his charges day one. They could have done this 6 months ago. He's the guy that covered for people to not get the jab, the poison in Utah. They could have covered for him for 6 months and removed the charges. I don't think it's any coincidence Pam Bondi's doing that in response to what's happening right here where she's besieged on the Epstein front. So again, that kind of proves it does pay to pressure your employees every now and then to get what you want out of them. Bob Vanderplots is going to join us next. Stay tuned. Hey, if you're struggling with chronic pain, and that's usually because you have too much inflammation in your joints, why not check out our friends over at Relief Factor? Now, no guarantees, okay? Right? We're not claiming this is an antidote from above or a panacea of any kind, but over the years, over 1 million people have tried the 3-week quick start from Relief Factor. 70% of them, thereabouts, a little less, a little more, depending on the year, see such great results in just that short span of time. They stick with the program long term. Now, what is Relief Factor? It's a drug-free supplement, but created by physicians who can prescribe drugs. But they recognize drugs are great at masking pain, but can maybe come with side effects every now and then. What about something drug-free that goes after what's actually causing the symptoms in the first place? And that something is Relief Factor. It costs just $20 to see. If you don't see a difference in your pain in 3 weeks or less, so what do you got to lose? That's a pretty good value bet. 70% odds for just $20 at relieffactor.com. Get started today at relieffactor.com. You can also call them 800-4RELIEF. That's 800-4RELIEF and relieffactor.com. Let's welcome in our good friend Bob Vander Plaats and from the Family Leader. And Bob, if everything goes okay, this will be the last time that you sit in that chair there in that space. So
literally,
it's been about a decade. You're finally getting rid of us,
Steve. Literally, right as you said, right as you said,
Go ahead.
If everything goes, and then you froze for about 5 seconds.
But I know you well enough to even go right.
You
through
can't make that up.
To even go right through the freeze. I knew what you were asking.
Yes. So we were never going to leave. It's just you're leaving. So you forced us to go get our own space. So, any nostalgia for your last trip there in that chair?
Well, I'm looking for Wasps right now. That's probably the big. No, we have just loved having you and Aaron and Todd in our offices and being. We consider you part of the TFL family, and so it's been a blessing for me to be able to walk from our office right over to here for the studio, but to see you guys interact with the staff every day. And understand you're the real deal. You're just not some talk show host trying to spin a good tale. But we've been blessed by having you with us, and we are going to cheer you on in your new location. And if you'll still have me, I'll be like that bad habit that doesn't go away. I'll keep showing up.
Yeah, it's just I'm not going to be a guest anymore in your building, so I might be meaner. I just want to warn you.
That's all right.
All right?
That's all right.
So let's get to it. You guys had the Leadership Summit over the weekend. You're okay with me being media? Is that what you're saying? You're okay with that?
Yes, I am.
Is he on a delay? Can he not hear me, or am I freezing up?
There's a very long delay.
Okay, you're on the delay.
There's about a 4 second
delay. So let's
delay.
get to the... is there? All right. Let's get to then. I won't. You know what? Then I won't even attempt to converse with you. I'm just going to ask you questions and then shut up and let you answer them after the delay. All right. So let's start with your leadership summit over the weekend. I heard from multiple people, not the least of which a man sitting to your right, one Todd Erzin, that a star was born in the upcoming Iowa caucuses over the weekend, that the J.D. Vance Invitational, with maybe a side of Ron DeSantis as in terms of big-name people getting in, they may have a third combatant to wrestle with, that Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders made quite the impression in both the Leadership Summit, but then Todd said also the dinner with a lot of your donors later that evening, the private dinner as well.
Well, Steve, first of all, the Leadership Summit, we heard from multiple people that was our best Leadership Summit yet. And we've had a lot of good ones. This was our 14th annual Leadership Summit. And I have a high bar for Sarah Huckabee Sanders because obviously I know her very well. In my introduction, I joked that she was like my little sister. She got up to take the mic and she said, I don't know if it's appropriate, but I'm going to take a little sting at Bob right away, and that is he's way too old to be my older brother. She goes, so he might be like Uncle Bob, but she knocked it out of the park. She came across as poised, as statured, as competent, as experienced, as well as showing heart. She showed some real emotion in that speech as well. The people gave her a thunderous standing ovation when she took the stage, but then a thunderous standing ovation when she exited the stage. And she absolutely, Steve, she blew me away. Now, it's the first time I've seen her as governor of Arkansas give remarks, but she was well prepared for the audience that she was going to deliver to. And she reminded me a lot of, and you'll remember this, Steve, back in the 2008 campaign of her dad. Her dad used to say to our audience a lot, listen, I don't come to you, I come from you. And I thought Sarah, she didn't have to say that, but she basically emphasized that. I'm not coming to you, I'm one of you. I'm coming from you. And so she did exceptionally well. Had a lot of people tell me afterwards, boy, if she did want to run for president, I'd sign up in a heartbeat. Had several people say we had the wrong lady from Arkansas to bust through that glass ceiling. It's not Hillary Clinton, but it may be Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And then the interview the night after the dinner. So for your audience, we have the Leadership Summit. The summit includes a lot of big name speakers. We share what the family leader does. And it was an exceptional summit. I'll get to all the different components here in a bit, including yours truly and Steve Deace. But then after the summit, we always do a private, intimate, 200-person type dinner with some of our best supporters, and Todd and Jill were able to be there as well. And then I interview the guest of honor. And we've had people like Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, Vice President Mike Pence, Tucker Carlson, Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos. And then we had Sarah Friday night. And I told Darla afterwards, without question, she was the best interview we've ever had at a post-summit dinner. One is, I think you could tell she and I knew each other very well. Two is, it was like us having a conversation. She was not performing. She was authentic. It was the real deal. But I would say her future is exceptionally bright, whether that being a vice presidential candidate down the road or a presidential candidate down the road, or even just as governor of Arkansas. She's doing an amazing job.
What about the family considerations? That is a big deal to some of our base. I think we did some math over the weekend, you and I, and if she ran for the White House this next election, she'd have one teenager and then one on the doorstep of being a teenager. That's not necessarily the greatest environment to be raising those. Frankly, J.D. Vance would face the same thing to some degree, but let's face it, this is also a double standard. The standard here for women is different than it is for men on the children front. We saw what happened to Sarah Palin's family when they received this kind of national spotlight, and it did not do her family very well either. So do you anticipate there being any concerns there?
Well, I'm sure that there will be, and I'm sure Sarah and Brian Sanders, her husband, will weigh that at great length. Darla and I talked a little bit about it. I think her oldest right now is 13, and then it's 10, and then it's 6. I believe I'm at least close in the ages of her 3 children. But Darla and I talked about, these kids have basically been raised, in the White House because of her being press secretary. And then after leaving the White House, all the attention's still on her, and then she runs for governor and now governor. So it's a little bit like, hey, we're raising these children already in an environment of service, and they've seen their grandpa serve, now being the ambassador to Israel. So this might not even be that unusual for them. Well, it's unusual for a lot of kids. This may not be that unusual for them. So I think Sarah, if she sees that there is an opening there, I think she's going to look how she can best honor and serve her country. That's her heart. But I think just like she's governor of Arkansas today, she's not going to look for, boy, how do I get to be president of the United States? I think she's going to look for a way that God has opened that door for her.
Finally, let's talk about the talk that I gave at your event. We're going to air that tomorrow on the show for fake news or not. It's about 15, 17 minutes, trying to get the pro-life movement back on track after it's lost virtually all of its momentum and much of its political capital since Roe v. Wade. And I think it needs a vision that kind of calls people into account and unity. And it's not a vision everyone's going to agree with. but I think it kind of also would articulate who's actually really serious about this and who's worthy of having conversations with and discussions and debates and even disagreements with, as opposed to people who just still don't have a vision that I think would recapture all the lost momentum. And I think that vision is we need to ask ourselves, is this action taking a step to ending abortion in America once and for all? I think that's what the arguments ought to be about. Is this getting us to our stated goal? Roe v. Wade is gone. So the only thing limiting us now is ourselves. That doesn't mean we live in a free country. We don't have to be cognizant of what people's opinions are at all. This is a political process, after all. All right, so we have to live within those realities to an extent, but we should be looking to push those realities at the same time and not settle within them constantly. And I see a lot of that. And so, to me, the vision moving forward now with Roe gone, is what's the ultimate high place now? Ending this once and for all. I think that should be the vision moving forward. So what do you think about the way that I laid that out at your event on Friday?
Well, first of all, I can't wait for your audience to watch your speech at the Family Leadership Summit on your show. And Steve, let me go into it this way. I mean, the Family Leader is obviously a leading organization in the state of Iowa on the pro-life issue. And pro-family issue. And then SBA Pro-Life America is a leading entity on the national side, and they were obviously a partner with us in the Leadership Summit. And your speech was right after lunch, because we know that you're entertaining enough that if people are getting tired, they're going to want to listen to Steve Deace. And then right after you was Marjorie Dannenfelser, who is the president and CEO of Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America. So I thought we gave you a great spot. People were there. They wanted to hear the Steve Deace that your audience tunes into every day. We want to hear that Steve Deace. And they saw Steve Deace get very personal, very real, very authentic about this life issue and why it matters so much to him. And I thought it was so honoring the way you did it and so moving and touching the way you did it. I'm one probably a lot like you, Steve. I don't like to show my emotions, especially of crying, unless it's in athletic endeavors, because then it was accepted. But otherwise, you didn't show emotion. But when you were sharing that story, I mean, I had a hard time keeping my composure. And then when the crowd voluntarily gave your mother a standing ovation, and she's just in the audience, that was exceptionally moving. But I think your comment about, listen, we may have people on different spectrums, but we have to share a common mission and vision. And that is, we're going to end abortion in this country. Now, we may have a great discussion on what's the best strategy and all that, but we have to be at least unified. We're going to end abortion in this country. And I thought the way you laid it out, people saw the Steve Deace that they know and love on Blaze TV, but they also saw Steve Deace, the son of a teenage mom who was delivered and now who has his own children and who is a grandpa and has a grandchild. So I think you just made it exceptionally real. And Steve, what I enjoyed seeing afterwards, and obviously I have a different seat than most people, but when you got done speaking and you walked off stage and the audience loved what you had to say, but you walked down the stage and the next speaker up was going to be Marjorie Dannenfelser, and she gave you a huge embrace. And she just hugged you like crazy. And afterwards on Friday night, she told Darla and me, she said, I just love that Steve Deace. And he is exactly right on the conversation that we need to have. So I think what you might be doing is igniting something well beyond your own show and well beyond the Family Leader. But this has national implications. Really, I think what you're doing is you're calling people's bluff. How serious and how real are you about ending this scourge that we call abortion that's been with us since 1973 and even predates 1973?
Thank you. And Todd, I know you were there as well. What were your thoughts?
Well, your speech, Bob, you gave a speech and you were bookended by two of the great female governors in this country, our Governor Kim Reynolds, and then, as you said, Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And all four of you had significant moments where your voice cracked, and Kim Reynolds also earned a standing ovation. And this is the power that you bring to the table with this event. And I would say, I having been there 2 years ago, I knew this was going to be a good event, but that everybody that was there figure gold standard. I was defaulted that was probably going to be, this would be a little bit more understated. As I told you privately when I said, I was just absolutely blown away. How do you do better than what we just saw? And in our fellowship coming together, the Holy Spirit working through us uniquely as individuals with all our unique gifts, but when we come together, and the power that came out in that entire event is a marker. And you, very powerfully, we're never going back. We're only going forward. We're going to take ground. We're going to win. That's it. You're on this team. Understand the mindset that we're going forward with. I thought it was just breathtaking, quite frankly. So well said, Todd. There's so much power in that room. And that's why we had people leaving very genuinely and authentically saying, this was your best leadership summit yet. And the message I wanted to send, obviously, I tried to tie together, but is that I don't want people who just want to play the game. Ainsley doesn't want to be with people at the University of Arkansas who just want to play soccer. I want to play with teammates that want to win. I want to play with people that want to win, because when you want to win, you're going to put your God-given gifts together, synergize it the best you can, cheer one another on, but we have a common mission, and that's what Steve was saying. And so to me, how God orchestrated the whole day, from Dr. Tony Evans, he was amazing,
to Greg Baker and our team, Chuck Hurley and our team, Kelly Garcia, the Health and Human Services official, all the way through the end to Sarah Huckabee Sanders. It was a powerful day. We're going to provide it as a link on our website, thefamilyleader.com. In the days to come, we'll notify you. But as soon as we have it up, we'll make sure you guys know. Put your base there. Take it in for free on us.
Bob, thank you very much. And preemptive apology for the traffic and mess that you may guys have to navigate a couple days next week as we move out. So thank you in advance for you guys' grace and mercy where that is concerned. We'll do our very best to mitigate that, but it won't be zero. So just wanted to say that, man. Thank you. We'll see you next
Steve,
week. All right?
When people enthusiastically come around you from our team to help you move out, don't take that as a thing. They want to get you out of here.
That's true. We'll have some extra hands. There, you're right. All right, we're going to come back. It'll be your turn to ask me anything next. Stay tuned. Back here with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. Steve Deace here from the Man Cave. Don't worry, no Wasps invasions. Just this Wasp, White Anglo-Saxon Protestant, has to catch a flight right after the show, get down to Nashville. So it was just easier for me with the airport closer to where I live than where I work, just to do the show from home today. So no Wasps. Although I have been, just the most Steve Deace show thing ever would be to have Wasps, not have them all summer. And then, like, the day we have to leave, like, a literal hive explodes live in the middle of the show. That would be the most Steve Deace thing ever. And why did I just verbalize this into the ether? Why did I do that?
During the first segment, I crushed some sort of ginormous centipede that just ran right past my foot. So, who knows? Could be an indication
I wonder
of
if we've
things to
just
come.
been... Have we just been on a hellmouth for the last 10 years back in this space, and we just didn't know, potentially?
No.
And we're looking at it backwards. It's not that we've been infested, but we have been being protected. We were on a literal hellmouth, literal portal to hell. And we were just being protected, which is why we only had these limited glimpses of what's really going on underneath us the entire time. In fact, I'm just going to go with that narrative. I like that. Whether it's true or not, I like it. Don't you take that from me, Erzin. Don't you dare. Don't. Let us know what you think about what you think. Steve at stevedeace.com, except if you're Todd. I don't want to know what Todd thinks about what I think. I want my narrative affirmed. Thank you. Like most Americans, I just want my narrative. Thanks. Steve at stevedeace.com is how you can email the show. Like us on Facebook, me, we, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, TikTok. You can also, if you love the podcast version, actually first, don't forget to subscribe to our new YouTube channel. And I'm going to keep calling it new until I am satisfied with the amount of subscribers there. And I'm not satisfied, so it's still no. So please subscribing to our new YouTube channel at Deace Show on YouTube. That's at Deace Show on YouTube. And then don't forget, if you love the podcast version, thank you. We love you because you're the biggest part of our audience. So please show how much you love us by leaving us a 5-star review. Thanks to the tens of thousands of you who have. You can also hit subscribe, or if you're on iTunes, Apple, follow. That way you'll know for sure every time we do a new episode, it's for sure going to be right there in your podcast feed. And if you want to be sure about a good night's sleep, check out our friends over at Beam with their awesome dream powder. Nothing wrong with a little hot cocoa right before bedtime, unless you're like me, you're a big intermittent faster and you're thinking that's the last thing I need is all those sugars and carbs. Well, Beam's not loaded with that stuff, but it is loaded with the kind of natural ingredients like magnesium, melatonin, and more that'll help you get the best night's sleep so you can, Dr. Laura, go take on the day, the very next day. Comes in a lot of different flavors. I do the chocolate peanut butter because that's kind of one of my flavored jams. All right. And here's the other thing, too. It also is another company that shares the same values of faith, family, freedom, hard work that all of you in our audience do as well. So here's the deal. Beam is giving you guys the ultimate Patriot discount right now. Up to 40% off their best-selling Dream Powder. Up to 40% off for a limited time. Just go to Shop Beam, like beam in your eye. shopbeam.com/Steve and use code Steve at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/Steve and use code Steve for up to 40% off. Code Steve at shopbeam.com/Steve for up to 40% off right now so you can sleep better, wake up stronger, show up ready because America needs you. And that's only slightly hyperbolic. Shopbeam.com/Steve, code Steve at checkout for the big discount. All right. A little Ask Me Anything questions coming from our followers over on Fakebook this week. And then next segment, we're going to do something we haven't done before. Questions for Todd and Aaron, and I'm disappointed to hear from Todd that a lot of snotty ones were not asked. Maybe they were all saved for me because everybody knows I like the snotty questions.
Correct.
No topic is off limits. I have not seen any of the questions at all. Todd curated said questions and then gave them to Aaron, who's now about to ask them of me.
We'll begin with Jonathan Mull. What will the mascot of the new studio be replacing the Wasps? I have an answer already.
You do? Go ahead. What do you think it is?
Puddles of water.
Come on, man. Come on, man.
Again.
Come on.
Are you just trolling, Aaron, or?
I will say, Rob
we had the problem once. Has it happened again? Has it happened again?
I was over there on Friday. We've had a lot of rain in the garage. Okay. I didn't see any evidence in the main studio area, but yeah, there was water on the floor in the garage. I will say, when we were over there the other day working, a lightning storm came in, a thunderstorm came in, and the landlord's guys were up on the roof endeavoring to try to figure out how well their roof is doing. That's either commitment or they're stupid because they're up there during a lightning storm. So it's not all bad, but I think we're going to have an interesting relationship with that person.
Here's the thing. I'm not allergic to water.
That's true. That's true.
I'm not allergic to water. I'm not allergic to puddles. Okay. I'm not. I don't even mind bees. I mean, I know they serve a vital function, within the ecosystem. I just happen to be allergic to them. I think they're awesome creatures to watch. I'm not particularly, it's not like, watching them on screen. Like, I can't watch rats on screen. I can't watch rats. Just can't watch things that scurry. All right.
You can't watch bees on screen. Rats?
I just the things that scurry get to me, man. I can't do it. If you're a scurrier, all right, I'm out. If you're a scurrier, I'm out. All right. I think bees are pretty cool. All right. I just happen to be, there's two things on earth I'm allergic to. Penicillin, of course, the most common antibiotic in all of human history, and bee venom. Those are the only two things I'm allergic to. If I wasn't allergic to them, I just wouldn't care at all. I happen to think they're kind of cool.
Also
but
allergic.
I happen to be allergic to bee venom.
also to commuting more than 10 minutes, because that's what my wife at dinner on Friday night was talking to this guy who on Thursday night, before the big event, had been Vander Plaats and the family leader held an event out at the new farm where they'll be moving. And this guy's asking, why isn't Steve going out with them? The place is amazing. It's awesome. Because it's more than 10 minutes away. You're also allergic to that.
Yes, I am. I'm not allergic. I'm just lazy. Those are two totally different things. One is without excuse. Allergic, I can't help what I'm allergic to. The other, frankly, is just a vice that I have chosen. Right, so let's make sure we provide clarity to the audience here. That farm is gorgeous. It's 30 minutes plus from where I live. And in all fairness to me, the schedule I keep in the mornings to get everything in I have to do, working out, prep, phone calls on 15 other projects people ask of me, doubling, tripling my commute time every day is just is an unmitigated disaster to pull everything off. So
puddles of water
we're literally, I will take the puddles of water over another 45 minutes in a car. You bet. They did. Especially now. I was hands-free now. All right? So I can't even do business in the car now. Okay, as much, so there you go. Now that's just, you know what? I'm not lazy. I don't want to waste all that time just sitting on my dad bod rump in a car. That's not lazy, Erzen. That's industrious. That's ergonomic. That's America. That's America.
Lazy.
That's America. That's America right there. America. Yes.
I give you a medical pass on that. You're the one who chose lazy. I give you.
I'm slightly defensive, I will admit, which usually denotes weakness.
Between the time that we were there on Thursday evening, Steve, and when I showed up again on Friday morning, they did finish the bathroom, so that's good.
Yeah.
What are we going to do with that massive space, though, in the back?
We will have maybe some discussions about that off the air at some point. Yeah, I have some ideas,
basketball,
but not on the air.
Basketball hoop.
Like the whole Dan Patrick thing?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I've got some ideas for maybe off there.
Okay,
yeah.
Moving on.
Right.
William asks this: was Edward unable to resist nefarious or unwilling to resist? In other words, did he want to be set free or not?
Unable. He was too far gone. And I think of this is a very important question, by the way. This is kind of the demonic possession version of, does faith lead to regeneration or regeneration lead to faith, right? And I remember one of the conversations that we were blessed to have with Father Carlos Martins at one of the leading living exorcists in the Vatican as we speak. And one of the things that he said to us is the biggest obstacle in an exorcism is getting the person to the point that they want to be completely divorced from the entity. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, you have to understand, these things don't, this is a wooing process. What we call possession doesn't start there. It's a wooing process. And a lot of times people enjoy having the heads up on things other people don't know, seeing things other people don't see, experiencing luck other people don't experience. And this is how these entities advance stage to stage through the possession process. And that there's a stage of the wooing where you feel special. You feel like you've been chosen. And then, it's the classic monkey paw. It's the classic Faustian bargain. And by that point in time, you're just kind of in too deep, right? What he kind of described was like every episode of Behind the Music in the 90s, in the early 2000s. Everybody starts off all earnest. We're in it for the art and the music, right? Then they get in, they start making money, and then come the chicks and the drugs. Then it's really just about the chicks and then at first they're just kids just partying and just having a good time. Then they become slaves to that lifestyle. Then that lifestyle ends up wrecking them, and it's about feeding that lifestyle and not the music. And those stories always ended one of two ways. Always ended with, now they're just playing, local hockey tonks and dive bars, and they've cleaned themselves up. They've gone through rehab, and they're not popular anymore, but now it's just about the music and the people, and they've kind of gone back to basics, or they're dead. Okay, I mean, that's kind of how it ends up. So that, in many respects, is a good analogy for what Martin's described to us. And that the biggest obstacle is people in many cases don't want to be totally freed of the entity. They want to take the relationship back to a stage where it was more pleasurable to interact with it. So I kind of think that answers your question.
I think I love it. One of my favorite parts of the movie is when they're spitballing there somewhere in the middle and James says, okay, tell me how possession works. And he very clinically lays out and rattles it off like at super speed, like I can't remember, 5 or 6 step process ending in subjugation. And and they know, I mean, the demons know exactly what they're doing, closing the window that this question talks about, where at the beginning, yes, you do have quite a bit of agency and choice, but that window closes until the end, subjugation, where you have none at all.
Next, we go to Gabriel. If the Epstein debacle was a Black Mirror episode, what would the twist be?
Let me give you a potential twist. This is a really good question. Man, this is a great question because this could be a Black Mirror episode. And maybe, you know what? Let me try to offer up a twist that might explain some of Trump's actions. All right? Let's say before they left, let's say everything they told us, they're going to give us this information. They intend to. The president said it. The vice president said it. Many members of the cabinet did. Many, very renowned MAGA influencers did. Cabinet, campaign officials. All right. The president's son, Don Jr., has been overtly vocal on the Epstein issue for the last several years. Okay. And he has his own empire within his father's empire when it comes to influencers and conservative movement stuff, or MAGA movement stuff, I should say. Let's say all of that was earnest. And then they got in there. And what they found was the Biden people basically removed every single piece of evidence involving anybody other than, say, somebody close to Trump, to essentially try to corner him and box him in. That you don't want to go there because of the collateral damage is too high. I think the other stuff we've all guessed, the Mossad angle, the CIA angle, a combination of the Mossad, CIA angle, I think that's all been discussed and guessed and likely has way more merit to it than what I am suggesting. But let's say that's what they did. And they put this poison pill on his lap and said, hey, you want to go ahead and put this information out there and embarrass the system? Well, turns out that now that you have the...
And we lost Steve. When he comes back...
Fun game.
If he comes back...
Quickly points at you.
And now he's back, I think. And we're going to have another 8-second delay, probably.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Am I there?
Yeah. Where did we lose him, Todd?
All right. I will try to. Okay. Okay. We're good. All right. Let's say. Let me reiterate for those in case you had the glitch. Let's say that all the evidence is removed except that which would point to somebody close to Trump or his interests, as a way of the system saying to him, "Are you sure you want to release this? Because you're going to." I mean, to me, that's a Black Mirror twist.
Yeah, I just don't believe. This is what I was alluding to at the top of the show.
What do you guys think of that as a guess, as a potential Black Mirror twist?
Just keep going, Todd.
Yeah, I was alluding to that earlier in the show today. Everybody keeps acting like, I can't remember. Aaron, you've watched the Mission Impossible. I think it's Mission Impossible 3 or 4, where they're trying to get the knock list, which is a bunch of agents across the world. And if they release it, everything goes. Everybody keeps acting like there's this list and it's in a lockbox somewhere. I just don't believe that's true. And I think that points to it. And if there ever was, it has been morphed, twisted, bent out of shape, names taken off, names put on that might not even be. So, Steve, I think you're right in some respect that it goes down this road.
Well, I don't know what to believe because the people who would be able to, uncover answers for us have, whether it's the previous administration, whether it's 2-3 administrations ago, have wholly discredited themselves. And this is, pick any issue, basically any issue. We're coming back to the same conclusion, the same rock and hard place, an epistemological nuclear winter. Where would we go to get the truth on any, whether it's COVID, whether it's the 2020 election, where would we go to get those answers? Most of the time it would be some sort of institution. Those institutions have a crisis of trust, a crisis of accountability, have a crisis of legitimacy. We're back in the same position over and over and over again. And I think it's that's driving the ire that you see online, Trump getting ratioed on his own social media platform. I think it's that as much as anything that has people pissed off. You kind of expect not to get answers to your questions when the administration is a Democratic administration. When you have a President Autopin, you kind of expect that. You expect a lack of truth, even though you don't like it. Even though these institutions, whether it's the 3-letter agencies or independent institutions, should be actually operating in good faith and should be orators of the truth, and they're not. But you expect that under different administrations, unfortunately. I think people were sold something and they expected something and were completely underdelivered. And I think it's just, I think the response of a lot of people is just throw another shrimp on the Barbie of not knowing the truth on basically anything. I think that's what's driving the frustration. Do we want to move on?
Let's do this because, first of all, that's very well said. We will move on after I talk about our friends over at Constitution Wealth. They've got 2 questions for you today. Number 1, are you investing in things that go against your biblical values? Number 2, are you investing in things that go against what you just voted for in the last election? So if you voted yes to either or both of those questions, then you need to talk to our friends over at Constitution Wealth, because what sets them apart from other investment advisors, they can help you specifically screen your portfolio for your Christian values, ensuring your money supports businesses that honor the Word of God that you're trying to live for, you're trying to lift up. Don't let your wealth unknowingly fund those things that are anathema to your belief system. Take control right now and align your values with your investments. Be both profitable and prophetic at the same time by visiting constitutionwealth.com/blaze for a free consultation. That's constitutionwealth.com/blaze to get started with a free consultation today at constitutionwealth.com/blaze. And remember that Constitution Wealth is a registered investment advisor. You should review their disclosures at constitutionwealth.com to understand their services and fees. And remember that all investing involves risk, including the risk of loss. I am a client of the firm. This is a paid endorsement, but my opinions are my own.
Moving on, let's go to this, another Epstein question. Kelly asks, what are the chances that Bondi got dumped a lot of deepfake Epstein files that were altered or recreated by the Obama, Clinton, Biden government operatives, as the real ones were destroyed long ago, and there's a covert investigation going on right now?
I would not rule this out. First of all, I think that Trump has earned with our base and his base some level of, is there something good going on we cannot see? I think he's earned that comprehensively. Not to the point of being a lemming idiot. Don't do that to yourself, okay? Because he is still your employee, okay? But I think he has earned that. I mean, not the least of which was taking a bullet in the face that was really aimed at all of us. Okay, so I think he has earned some of that. Some of you that have tried to, well, frankly, a lot of the attempts that have tried to come forward with what could be the play here that we're not seeing, they didn't come across, frankly, as credible to me, but wish casting. This one I could see being somewhat credible, but I can also understand why people are at no low contendere here, okay? Because, listen, look what Jack Posobiec said. He's like, listen, man, I got brought in as a social media influencer to the White House, and Pam Bondi gave me a binder and basically made a clown out of me. That's what he said at TPUSA over the weekend, okay? So, there's, I can understand why a lot of people are like, you had opportunities to maybe explain things to me. Instead, you didn't do that and played me for a schmuck and a fool, remember what I told you. People will put up with politicians who lie to them or are even corrupt, especially if they're ones that are wearing their jersey. What people do not tend to tolerate, particularly in our form of government, is being played for a schmuck and a fool. And right now, there are a lot of people that are being made to feel that way. And I think this is why, not to mention that this is a red line issue. I mean, if there was anything to radicalize on, if there was anything to ever draw a red line on, it kind of would seem to me that continuing to not come forward and be transparent about a sex trafficking ring of underage girls for global elites who hate us, it kind of feels to me like that might be at least on somewhere, guys, on the list of things to like not give on. You know, I mean, I think somewhere on the list, if there was ever like a that's it, I just can't go there. I kind of think that is a credible option for your no-go zone, for your red line. I can't go there with you. And I just think that that's the way this has been played from the beginning has been a disaster.
That's why I keep asking, why are they messaging the way that they are if this is really a nothing burger? And I think that's kind of representative of a lot of people's frustrations. Mm-hmm. Next, we go to John. I can't open TikTok at all these days without seeing a video of someone saying, quote, I had a vision from God, and I know for a fact that the rapture is going to be at the Feast of Trumpets, September 23rd and 24th, 2025. I was always told nobody would know the day or hour of the Lord's return. I was also told that as we do get closer, there'd be a rise in false prophets. How does one navigate these testimonies? Are they even worth paying attention to?
Well,
the
yes
answer,
and no.
The answer is cancel TikTok.
No one knows the day or the hour.
The answer is cancel TikTok.
This is where we can get into, was that meant as a literal statement? Is that a Jewish idiom, a phrase of the era? All right. That is part of the conversation of how much to take literally, right? There's a difference between saying the Bible is the literal word of God, but I'm going to take every word of it literally. Okay? When Jesus says you are the salt of the earth, he does not mean that you are an upright comprised vat of iodine. That is not what he means. Okay? I mean, it's a euphemism. It's a metaphor. Okay? And so all of the various eschatological camps, premillennials, postmillennials, amillennials, argue with each other and claim to the other that they're the ones taking things literally and the other ones are taking things figuratively, when they're taking things figuratively and the other ones are taking it literally, and back and forth they go. All right, so was Jesus making a statement to be taken face value literally, or is that a Jewish idiom that kind of has a more complex meaning, like a lot of Jewish apocalyptic language of the time that just is a custom that is beyond us because it's a society from 2,000 years ago? That's heavily debated. I've watched, to me, I don't have a problem with people thinking they're doing analysis of a redemptive timeline, of a prophetic timeline, and coming to this conclusion. I've watched a bunch of these videos of this group on YouTube called Messiah 2030, for example, who believe that if you look at the periods of times and epochs that redemptive in biblical history is divided into, that it would seem to be the very feast you're talking about in the year 2030 would line up with that. But they're also not claiming they're getting a direct download from God. To me, that's the caveat. All right. If you want to examine it, if you want to see if you can decipher it, you ever want to take a crack at it, I don't have a problem with that. It's saying that God told me and then you're wrong. I mean, the Bible has some really brutal things to say about people who say that God told me this prophecy and then this said prophecy does not come true. So the Bible is pretty clear about how we're supposed to react and treat those who say God told me so and this will happen and then it does not. Right? So I don't think there's a problem at all with trying to decipher the signs of the times. You could even look at one eschatological interpretation and say Jesus encouraged this. But to say that you have the exclusive download, well, that's been done before. Many have said that. They've all been wrong. And the Bible is very clear about how they're to be treated if they're in that camp.
I want to get this one in before the break. Darren Fikes says, I go to a Pentecostal church, UPC to be exact. Are you really going to a Pentecostal church, Steve? Do you believe in Jesus' name baptism? Do you believe Acts 2:38 is the plan of salvation? Thank you. Absolutely love your show. All three of you guys are excellent at what you do.
I do go to a church that right now is associated with the Assemblies of God. It would be a charismatic church. I would consider myself a continuist, meaning that I don't believe that the gifts of the Holy Spirit died out with the apostles, but I'm very, 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 very cautious about attributing them to modern audiences, since they are, and modern churchgoers, since they are so often abused. See the last question that I just answered. Okay. I don't believe that you require a separate baptism to receive the Holy Spirit. I think the baptism that is referred to there, meaning that they received the baptism of John, meaning that they just received a generic baptism of repentance that John was doing as a forerunner to what Christ would represent later, the sacred baptism. And that John, remember, had his own movement, and John had his own disciples, remember. Okay, so I think that what that is alluding to, and that's why that's the only verse, as far as I know, in all of the New Testament that alludes to some kind of another baptism. In essence, be very careful about taking a singular verse in a book written over the course of 1,000+ years, with dozens of authors and 66 books. Be very careful taking a particular verse and like basing your hermeneutic and theology on it. All right, I think the long predominant arc of the New Testament makes it clear that when you were baptized, Jesus said, how do we baptize people? In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. All right. So if you weren't baptized in that name, you weren't really baptized, number one. And then number two, if you were baptized in that name, you already received the Holy Spirit. It kind of seems important that Jesus would have said, and oh, by the way, then there's like a super duper extra baptism y'all have to do. Okay. Let me drop that on you. Seems like he would have made that point. Since he's the one that defined what baptism is, since he's the one that defined who baptism's in the name of, kind of would seem like if it meant that there was a, baptism part, he would have told us, but he didn't. And I think that's because there's not. Okay. And at our church, they don't do that baptism. And I wouldn't participate if they did. It preaches that believers receive the Holy Spirit when they are baptized. So that's my best answer to your question.
It's a good answer, and I think we'll leave it there.
All right. You guys are going to get some questions when we come back finally. And it's about cotton picking time. Yeah, actually, this could happen a long time ago. I just like to hog all the airtime, so I've never solicited them before. So it's really just my ego that this didn't happen. But when we come back, Todd and Aaron get a chance to ask, or to be asked me anything, and we'll see how they perform. Let's admit, I've set the bar pretty high. So good luck, guys.
Thank you. Appreciate it. The topic of pumpkin spice came up during the break. And I finally informed Steve the truth that pumpkin spice is trash. And he rage quit his own show. So it's just Todd and I now.
Here we go.
Is that what happened? That's what, you can attest.
It's plausible.
You can attest that's what happened.
That's our Black Mirror episode of what happened.
We're continuing on Ask Deace Anything without Deace himself. I think the real question we need to be asking, though, Todd, why is everything breaking? Last night, I had a good weekend. Last night, putting the kids to bed. Oh, there's a puddle of water in the kids' bathroom. Broken toilet. Have to order a special tool to be able to actually lift it off the base. That's supposed to be getting in today. Comrex, that link that we had with Steve, was on the fritz, resulting in that incredibly choppy and awkward conversation that you just heard. Todd is moving around like a 90-year-old because he threw out his back, getting out of a seat.
True facts.
He's moving. I'm serious. I'm not exaggerating. He's moving like he needs a walker. Why is everything breaking? Everything's breaking.
Well, this might be the final test these next 3 days.
It might be indeed. Let's continue on with Ask Deace Anything, minus Deace, with Sean. Sean Meyer asks, are brick and mortar churches still needed? When most believers can get better theology and community online from podcasts and chat rooms, the only reasons I can think of are the artistry and the physical representation. So I'll go first. I have one response and one question to answer this question. The number one question that I would ask you, Sean, to answer this question, if you are considering this as an alternative to brick and mortar church, who is your accountability structure? Who is your accountability? Who is the shepherd of the flock that you are wanting to join by not going to a brick and mortar church, per se? You know, I had a friend of mine a few years ago who was, I think, on some level, rightfully motivated. I don't know his heart. Obviously, I'm not God, but from what I know of this individual, I think he had some righteous motivations concerning economics, money, and spending at the church at the time that we both attended. He voiced those frustrations or concerns with some of the leadership. He was rebuffed, didn't like that. And so he started doing his own Bible study out of his house. And we'd have conversations. And I'm like, yeah, dude, you're right about some of these concerns. But I want to ask you, you're doing kind of this home church. It wasn't house church movement thing, but you're doing kind of church at home. Who is your accountability structure? Who is the shepherd that's making sure that you're not falling into heresy, that you're not falling into false teaching, that you're not propagating, leading people astray? That is the structure of the church as outlined in the New Testament. Who is that? And he never was able to give me an answer. Aaron, that's a good concern. I don't know. We're looking for people, but I never got an answer to that question. So that's the first answer, is asking you a question. Who is the leadership structure and accountability if you were to just eschew a typical church? The second thing I would say is I don't think, brother, you're looking hard enough. I really don't. We're still living in the United States of America, where it is possible to find good churches with good theology, good people acting and doing the work of the Great Commission and discipleship. It is still possible to find that. Now, is it harder in some areas of the country, like a New York, like a Los Angeles? Maybe not in Los Angeles. I think there's some still really good churches in that area of the country. It might be harder or more challenging to find good churches that fit the description of whatever podcasts, or I don't even know what the podcast you're listening to. But you need to look harder. If you're coming to this conclusion, I think you need to look harder. Todd, how would you answer?
Yeah, with all due respect, this is the idolatry of technology, curating whatever you like on your cell phone, the idolatry of the man cave, just having what I want. And I'm simply reminded of one of the most chilling and important parts of Scripture. Lord, did I not do this and this and this in your name? And he said, yes, you did, and I hardly knew you. If you're going to go into isolation, you better be a hermit in the middle of the desert, forsaking things, and not just by yourself, surrounded by all of your comforts and all the things you like, and saying, I'm good here, I'm going out on my own. That almost certainly is going to be an idolatry problem. You got to be out amongst people. God is trying to save them just like he's trying to save you. And mostly this becomes, I just don't like people. God died for those people. You need to too.
I'm giving Sean the benefit of the doubt. It's do not forsake the gathering of the brethren. There's different translations. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt that maybe he sees digital gatherings as real gatherings and not actually in-person gatherings. I think it's pretty clear it's instructed for in-person gatherings. Let's move on to this one from Nathan. Question, what's your favorite and least favorite thing about your career? Todd, you can go first.
Well, one of my favorite I just got to experience at the Family Leader Summit, and my wife went to dinner with me that night, but because it was on a Friday, she was working. So my daughter number 2, Tessa, is back from college. And so I asked if she wanted to go, and she said, that sounds fun. And I couldn't walk 10 feet down the hall without somebody stopping me and just saying, we love the Steve Deace Show and thank you for everything you do. It is here, normally we're 3 guys in a room. Now we're 2 guys in a room. But you really, as Steve says quite frequently, we're pretty hard on you, but you are very, very kind to us. And for every, sad sack of non-lunatic, there are just infinite numbers of you who are the reason we do this, because we, just like being at the Vander Plaats event, all in that room together, letting the Holy Spirit, yes, works through us individually through our unique talents and treasures, but he works through us corporately as well. And it happens. We feed off of each other in ways that we don't fully understand, and that can't and don't tend to happen in isolation. So that is a gift of being part of this show, your fellowship.
Least favorite?
Well, why don't you answer one or the other at least while I think about that one?
So, my favorite part of this is, to give you something. It varies by the time, but taking for granted the people that you're talking about, because when I meet people in person, it's always really cool, a really cool experience. I mean, I think it was earlier this year. I think it was in February. Just walking through the Skywalk in Des Moines, and somebody's like, "Hey, Aaron, love the show." I'm like, "I have no idea who that is, but thank you, appreciate that." That's really cool. When we get to talk back and forth, whether it's digitally or in person, every now and again, that's a really cool part. To give you more specific thing as far as the vocation centric, Steve gives us both Todd and I, wide latitude to be creative and say what we want to say.
For sure.
I don't, if you're not inside this industry and you haven't heard stories, that pretty much universally does not exist with what Todd and I do for Steve. It just doesn't really exist. Very few exceptions, whether it's in the secular space or, whether it's being producer. My technical term is executive producer, and Todd as editor. That kind of wide latitude to say and disagree with Steve when we feel it's warranted, whether it's off the air or sometimes on the air, that just doesn't exist. It really doesn't. So that's my favorite part.
Completely agree.
Least favorite part is politics in general. This is the way it goes. But I'm lumping all 3 of us because we get, to varying degrees, either we're the ones instigating it or we're getting caught in the crossfire that's directed at Steve or Todd or me. But these wild swings, 2020, 2021, your show saved our life.
Yeah.
We love you. We dig you. 2023, we hate you. There is some of that. Although I have my own opinions about where that was coming from. You're a backstabber, blah, 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 blah. And then a different group of people saying you're the best thing ever, best thing since sliced bread. 2024, those same people who said you were the best thing since sliced bread said you're terrible. The principles crowd always has some colorful vocabulary, and I've noticed that. I'm just talking about noticing things. They have very colorful vocabulary when it comes to telling us how we're a bunch of sellouts. And then the same people that were calling us sellouts and backstabbers before kind of warm back up. I will tell you, though, the people, I've noticed when you meet MAGA in person, they are far more understanding and charitable than some of the people who come at us online in the Anon-Con, who were with us during a primary and now think we're terrible and we're, pawn scum. The people that I've met in person are very charitable and understanding out of MAGA. So I'll leave it there. Todd, have you thought of your worst?
Yeah, negative. The people who, they're very passionate, and it overlaps with what Aaron said. They're very passionate, and they're clearly interested in this thing, politics, worldview. But you can tell pretty quickly if they come at this as a citizen or more as a sports fan. and way too many, which is part of the reason I handle sports the way I do. There's a lot of people who have just it's Friday Night Lights, and they really don't approach this as a citizen, which is why they fetishize the anonymity thing and compare themselves to Benjamin Franklin. You know, that's never gonna win a culture, guys, ever. And I think you know that, but you just like getting your jollies off that. So yeah, that's troublesome.
Let's go to Blake next. Question for Aaron. Have you and your wife ever had to deal with any tension among parents or in-laws over how you raise your children or how or where you spend time as a family during the holidays? What advice would you give? I'll say both sets of parents are very flexible and understanding, and we haven't run into this tension at all. But having said that, it is something that Bella and I discussed while we were dating. And we basically, on issues like this, we come to the conclusion that our family is our own. Our children are our own. We are responsible for those children. To the extent that we involve grandparents, we want them to have a great and strong relationship with our children. And we want them to, as best as they can within our framework, we want them to, be a good influence on our children. But our family is our own when it was just Bella and I, and our kids are our own. And so we just decided that we're going to make decisions independently. We're going to try to be as flexible as possible when it comes to holidays. And when it comes to the rearing of our children, we're going to take input in stride, but ultimately the buck stops with us as the parents of those children. So that's kind of where we fall down. We're very fortunate that both sets of our parents have been very flexible and really, really cool. And Greg and Barry have been awesome in-laws, huge help to us, unbelievable help to us, as well as my parents, with childcare when Bella was still working, and just taking, Ben to run around on the farm. It's been just an incredible experience with our parents. So fortunate not to have any tension where that's concerned, but it is something that Bella and I talked about as we were dating. Todd, do you want to add to that?
I kind of assumed there are a couple reasons why I was just asked for you. One, you're younger with young family, and Steve and I have kind of aged out of that. But also, Steve and I Steve has a very unique relationship. But in terms of mine, my mom died 3 months before I got married, and so I don't know, like a year and a half before Ainsley was born, and so my dad was on his own, and he was never quite, and now he's gone, but he took losing my mom very, very hard, and so it was never quite the same. And then my wife's parents were divorced. So there was never any kind of, unfortunately, I think sometimes this happens when you have two married families, together intact with traditions that then end up kind of being, maybe they didn't intend to or not, but they kind of competing against each other. And neither Steve or I really had that. So I assume maybe that's why, to the degree we talk about our past long enough, if you ask this question, you know that about us.
One more question. This one's kind of heavy, and we don't have very much time. Josh Miller asks, hey, this is personal. What advice would you give to get my marriage back? And by the way, he asked this on Facebook on a public platform, by the way. What advice do you have to get my marriage back on track? I've been a jerk, to say the least. I've asked for forgiveness. I've been praying in church, seeking counseling, yet nothing seems to help. She has said I made her this way. I'm at the end of my ropes, but nothing works. Anything will be of help. Very briefly, because we don't have very much time. I'm sorry, Josh. I got the impression, and I want to hear Todd's, from reading that post, especially, I've tried everything, but nothing works. What is the outcome that you're actually going for? Are you checking boxes? Hey, will this get my wife back? Will this get my wife back? Are you just checking boxes for the sake of checking boxes because that's what you're supposed to do? Or are you trying to grow in the knowledge of God and changing your life? The only thing that you can actually control is your own sanctification. Now, that's done with the help of the Holy Spirit, but that's something that you have to change yourself. That's the work that you have to put in. You just admitted you've been a jerk. Is it abundantly clear to you and your family that you're not a jerk? You're not being a jerk. That the thing that you care about most is actually, well, first, your Lord and Savior, and behind that, your family and not yourself. Is that really being modeled? Is that change really real? That's kind of the vibe, if you will, that I got from that question. Todd, how would you answer that in 30 seconds?
Yeah, be very clear that this isn't just your guilt talking and you just want to get past it and move on, even though you're legitimately sorry. I mean, what changes in your life have you made that are visible, that you've made sacrifice for? What have you given up? You got to show her.
Amen. That's going to do it for a Monday edition of the show. Thank you for watching and listening. Steve will be back remote tomorrow. Until then, Romans 8:28.